Welcome to episode number 146 of the Beyond Social Media Show, the podcast for marketing, advertising, public relations, and communications professionals. We're recording live on YouTube on June 12, 2016. We kick it off with the Orlando shooting that just occurred today or last night. Breaking news this morning. So we'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about the Gawker bankruptcy, Axl Rose's fat meme, ad fraud crimes, Zuckerberg hacked and the password solution, new Facebook features, Joe Biden's open letter, Twitter insiders, and a Google Tango phone, and much, much more. I'm David Erickson. I'm with my co-host BL Ochman. BL always has the honors and kicks it off with the worst story, and we're already tipped off what was the worst story. So tell me about that, BL.
Well, the reason that I had included the Pulse nightclub story in the show tonight was because they made the announcement, "Get out and keep running," on their Facebook page and on Twitter. And 53 people are dead. The death toll is rising. It's the largest mass shooting in U.S. history, and a tremendous amount of conversation has gone on Twitter and Facebook. And just before at 2 a.m. they said, "Everybody get out of Pulse and keep running." And then just before 6 a.m. they posted an update that said, "As soon as we have any information, we'll update everybody. Please keep everyone in your prayers as we work through this tragic event." And it is just really rather incredible that this is how we got the news. And the Orlando Police Department was on Twitter from the start, and they said, aside from live briefings, the only official information comes from @Orlando Police Twitter feed. And as the day went on, the news got more and more horrific, and it became clear that the gunman was 29-year-old Omar Mateen, and he apparently called 911 and said that he was an ISIS sympathizer right before he went into the place. And, it's the 15th time that President Obama, at least the 15th time that President Obama addressed the nation about a mass shooting. And what he said that really resonates is we have to decide if that's the kind of country we want to be. And to actively do nothing is a decision as well. And so, of course, Donald Trump declares that he's right and everybody else is wrong. And that, we have to get tough on terrorists and nobody else is going to say what really happened and blah, blah, blah. Nothing surprising there. But I mean, all day long, it's just been horrifying to see it unfold in real time on social media, and to be so powerless to do a goddamn thing about it is horrifying.
Yeah, and we had 103 people shot, 50 of whom have died, and the death toll is likely to rise because many of the people who were shot are in critical condition in the hospital. So absolute tragedy, absolute horror. You mentioned the Orlando Police Department's Twitter account being the source of official information. Unfortunately, our police departments across the country have had plenty of practice in dealing with these types of situations, and that's standard operating procedure now for police departments to be their Twitter accounts to be the sole the sourse of official announcements. So it's unfortunate, but they know how to do it now. Because we've had so much practice. Of course, there was the downside of Twitter, and no more prominent user of Twitter than Donald Trump illustrated that, as he's wont to do. This is from a Slate article by Matthew Dessem. A lot of people reported on this while we Americans were reacting in horror to the breaking news of the terrorist attack, the hate crime massacre in Orlando. Donald Trump, of course, saw an opportunity to humble brag. He tweeted, "Appreciate the congrats for being right on radical Islamic terrorism. I don't want congrats. I want toughness and vigilance. We must be smart!" ! Once again, this tiny-fingered narcissist has made it all about himself. He's taken a tragedy and looked for an opportunity to brag. Jesus.
Oh, he turns my stomach. But the latest toll is actually 53 people have died. It's not over. It's not over. There've been other shootings in the same time period. It's just horrifying. But anyway, what's your bad news, Dave?
Well, aside from that, let's go on to less bad news. Axl Rose was in the
Much
news
less
this
bad news.
past week. Yes, this past week. This is from a Consequence of Sound blog post from Alex Young. So Axl Rose, if you do not know, is the lead singer of the 80s hard rock band Guns N' Roses, and he recently joined another 80s hard rock band, AC/DC, as their singer after their longtime frontman Bon Scott was advised not to tour anymore or become deaf. So he's been at it for a long time. So Axl Rose is now singing with AC/DC. Sadly for Axl Rose, though, the internet has found an unflattering photo of him from a 2010 Guns N' Roses concert that demonstrates that the ravages of time affect even rock gods. The internet went all cruel on Rose by using the photo to start an Axl Rose is fat meme that used the photo and parodied Guns N' Roses lyrics. Examples include, "Take me down to the bakery city where the pies have cream and the cakes are tasty." And another one said, "Oh, sweet pie of mine." So cruel, but funny too. So Rose, should be noted, has slimmed down since the photo was taken. He looks to be in good shape and is apparently touring with 2 bands. So that'd be enough to keep anybody fit, obviously. Nevertheless, the memes have hit a sore spot with the singer. He did exactly what you should never do in a situation like this. He issued a Digital Millennial Copyright Act takedown notices to Facebook, Google, and YouTube, as Torrent Freak reports. That's, of course, will virtually guarantee that the photos will remain online forever. Rose claims copyright on the image, even though he obviously didn't take the photo himself. Web Sheriff is the company that's handling the notices, and they claim that the photographer gave up the rights to the photo in a contract to be a licensed photographer at the concert. And then they claim even if the photographer in question hadn't signed such a contract, he'd be in violation of what amounts to a terms of service for attending concerts that prohibit fans from taking photos. This has been tried before with the likes of Beyonce to no avail. So if Beyonce can't do it, then it's likely Axl Rose will. So tough luck, buddy. Or in other words, welcome to the jungle.
Oh God! I mean, yeah, that's the best way to make things worse is to do all of that.
Yeah.
So, speaking about free speech, Gawker had to declare bankruptcy this week, and Nick Denton declared the bankruptcy on Twitter. And this is from a story by Jordan Weissman in Slate, and he was explaining why Gawker declared Chapter 11, and essentially what happens when you declare Chapter 11 is you are then safe from any judgments against you. And since they are putting the company up for sale, and it appears that there are a couple of buyers who are interested, then the buyers will not inherit the judgment. And so while it was a sad day for free speech, they can continue to publish, they can continue to pay their employees, and they stay safe from judgment. And it looks like the first case that where they were offered money is like $100 million, and that's clearly going to get better. And Nick Denton wrote on Twitter and on Gawker that for you, the reader, it means very little. We'll continue to operate as usual through the Chapter 11 process. It was a very smart move on their side.
Yeah, I shed no tears for Gawker. That's all I got to say about that.
Well, I mean, I understand that on one level, and on another, it's clearly a really, really rich guy on a rampage, and can you blame him? They outed him as gay. Did they have to do that? No. Did they have to publish the sex tapes of Hulk Hogan? Who cares what Hulk Hogan is doing? But they've also broken an awful lot of stories in a legitimate news cycle, and
how about just sticking to that?
Well, how about that? But they don't, and that's who they are.
Yep,
so that's the way. That's the way it is. Okay, well, I think that brings us to better news.
No, it doesn't. Not at all.
Lots of bad news.
Just bad news.
Go ahead. Go
Adidas. Adidas is in the news. This is from a Latina magazine post by Barbara Gonzalez. Adidas' new ads starring Colombian soccer players James Rodriguez, Juan Cuadrado, Frank Fabra, and Edwin Cordano. Adidas misspelled the country's name of the Colombian soccer players' team, emblazoning Colombia across each poster. The country's name was also misspelled in the company's online media kit. The ads were featured in Adidas stores, which prompted angry customers to tweet pictures of them, of course. Adidas has sponsored the Colombian team since 2011. You'd think they know how to spell the country's name by now. It's Colombia. Oh, not you.
That's so funny. I mean, but spelling isn't important anymore. Grammar isn't being taught. They don't even teach you. Cursive handwriting isn't even taught. So what do you expect? It's going to get worse. It's just going to get worse.
Yeah, until people figure out there's algorithms that know that no grammar and no spelling and dock you for it.
I have yet to meet one that does it well.
Google has an algorithm that knows how to read.
Not great.
No, it knows how to. It's likely one of the ranking factors in search is quality of your writing. So people need to figure that out. Anyway, another one, ad fraud. This is a fascinating article from Mashable, of all places. They're actually starting to report on internet stuff now. This is by Patrick Culp. It's on a new report from the World Federation of Advertisers that estimates that within the next decade, fake internet traffic schemes will become the second largest market for criminal organizations behind cocaine and opiate trafficking. More than half of online ads by some accounts never reach actual humans. Many fall victims to just technical glitches. Others are viewed by networks of automated bots that are designed to mimic human behavior. Even at conservative projections, the report claims the total cost of fraud is, if unchecked, could exceed $50 billion by 2025, or 1/10 of the $500 billion the report optimistically predicts the global ad market will be worth by then. Organized crime likely members like ad fraud because it offers the prospect of higher payouts at lower risk and relatively little effort. So law enforcement doesn't have the technological savvy to regulate online ads, and cyber criminals, obviously it can be a huge payout. So I'm kind of wondering, the article didn't go into saying how exactly organized crimes are doing this. I can imagine it would be something like a consultancy that buys ads on behalf of people or something. I didn't go into that, but it's a big thing. You can imagine it's pretty easy to trick people. The reports you get after you do an ad buy from a publisher are usually click-through rates or impressions, and you just base those on faith. You don't know.
Well, it shouldn't be too hard to hire some black hat people and tell them that you're going to give them a big piece of the action and get them to do that for you. I'm sure that's not, I'm sure that's big business for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So
the other one was Zuckerberg hacked.
Yeah.
So Zuckerberg
wouldn't be.
Yeah, he was. This is from a TechCrunch article by Natasha Lomas. Hackers were able to gain control of his LinkedIn and Twitter accounts, and his Pinterest accounts. They were compromised. A post on his Pinterest page credited the hack to a group called Our Mine, O-U-R Mine team. The hackers referred to the LinkedIn breach in a message tweeted from Zuckerberg's account, which read, "Hey, at FINKD," which is Zuckerberg's Twitter account, "you were in the LinkedIn database." So that's a reference likely to the hack of LinkedIn that occurred several years ago. It's possible that Zuckerberg was using the same password and email address or user account name across multiple accounts, which would explain why they hacked multiple of his accounts, which is a rookie mistake. But neither his Facebook nor his Instagram accounts were hacked. Good for him. That would have been a PR disaster. But maybe this will serve as a wake-up call for someone who can actually actually make a difference. Somebody with the power of Zuckerberg, maybe he'll do something with Facebook skunkworks and figure out how to make passwords more secure. We also had 32 million Twitter passwords for sale. That came out. There's an article by in the Next Web by Abhimanyu Ghoshal. A Russian hacker had claimed a massive cache of Twitter accounts logins for sale for about $5,800. Database contains more than 32 million accounts. The passwords were stored in plain text, and several of them seem to belong to Russian users. So what? I'm thinking they're bots, because that's where a lot of the bots come from. But it's like the credentials were trained through malware attacks rather than breach of Twitter systems. The most commonly occurring passwords in this database were, drumroll please, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, followed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, followed by QWERTY and password. Twitter actually said they're confident the credentials weren't obtained through a data breach on Twitter. And they've identified some of the accounts are taking action to secure those. So there's that. A lot of hacking going on.
Well, what I read was that Zuckerberg's password was da da da. So
he likes that old ad, da da da.
da da da. Right, exactly.
Or he likes the artists. I don't know. Who knows?
So are you done with bad news?
I am. Yep. Let's go.
Well, I'm going to miss the current administration in a big way. And this week, Joe Biden sent an open letter to the Stanford rape survivor, and he did that through BuzzFeed. And, he went on about how this was not her fault, and how she is, under no circumstances responsible for what happened, and that he hopes that this will open a conversation in households and everywhere across the nation, so that people can understand that no means no, and that when you see something happening, you don't walk away. And he commended the young people who helped her and who got help and kept the guy from getting away. And this is the Vice President of the United States. I mean, that was a damn decent thing to do.
Yeah, and it certainly, the incident certainly has sparked that discussion. If you follow social media, I've seen tons of conversations on social through my own feeds regarding that. So it certainly has had some effect, tragic though it was. So following on the hacking stuff and the passwords being released and Zuckerberg getting hacked, in the good side of it, Google has what is called a trust score. They've been working on fixing passwords, and maybe they've got a solution here. This is from The Verge, Ashley Carmen's article. This is actually something that Google announced at their I/O conference, but they've got a plan to replace passwords. Trust scores, quote unquote, incorporate various data points about an individual user to determine whether or not they're legit. Google has a trust API that is the result of years worth of password work. It's rolling it out to several very large financial institutions for testing. The trust score is based on various user-specific data points, including current location, facial recognition, and typing patterns. So the argument is basically, why doesn't my phone just know who I am, rather than having to memorize what your passwords is and usernames for every account you open. So certain apps could require different scores. A banking app obviously might have a higher trust score than Instagram requires. For instance, the Trust API always runs in the background of the user's device, monitors its sensors and information, so it can provide apps with the current trust score. It's basically a confidence level that you say that you are who you say you are, and the AP release is contingent for the general public upon a successful trial with banks. So if it works for financial institutions, you figure it's strong enough for everybody else.
I would really like to see that happen.
Wouldn't it be great?
It would just be such a saver of time, among other things, of having to look up your freaking passwords all the time. And, I've taken to just like saying I forgot and getting a new one every time, because I figure like if you can get into anybody's account, you can get into mine, and so why use the same password over and over? And it's just a colossal. If you look at like how much time you spend on email and on stupid stuff like that, it's just absurd. It really is absurd.
That's been broken for a long time. Somebody's got to fix it. Hopefully, Google has done just that.
Wouldn't that be nice? So John Oliver pulled an Oprah this week, and he forgave $15 million in medical debt. And the way he did it was absolutely fascinating, because what he did was he learned that you can buy debt for a reduced, this is what the collection agencies do. They buy debt, and often after the statute of limitations has expired, which I think is 7 years. But at any rate, they sell off. They figure like you're not going to pay, so they sell off your debt. And so he bought this $15 million worth of debt for $60,000. And then he decided that what he got was he got everybody's email, their social security number, their address, their phone number. I mean, all of their information. That is what the credit bureaus have about you. And he then contacted all of them and said, your debt is hereby forgiven. And, this is when collection agencies are calling people and bugging them and going on and making their lives miserable. And it begs the question, could you just buy your own debt and pay it off? I mean, I do wonder about that. But, that was great. I mean, the way that he did that was just great. And he surprised an awful lot of people in a very nice way.
John Oliver is brilliant in so many different levels. One, in the way that he tells a story. So in a 20-minute segment, you can be very, very savvy about a very in-depth story, very complicated in-depth story, and learn everything you need to know about it because of his compelling way of telling the story and humorous way of telling the story.
So funny.
So they're hilarious. Funny. But then he also is a brilliant marketer because he does these things like this example, right? He's going to get a ton of press out of the fact that he bought a bunch of people's medical debt and forgave it. That's a headline story in and of itself. And then all these segments are made for sharing on social media because they release them on YouTube. And so you've got a ton of reach that way. So on so many levels, he's a very smart marketer.
Well, I don't have
practically a charitable institution because he does stuff like this all the time.
Well, I don't have HBO, so I have to watch him online, and I never miss him because he's absolutely he kills me.
Yeah. So more Google news. This is a good week for Google and cool news. Google Tango is coming to phones. This is from an AP article by Michael Liedtke. Lenovo has announced the release of the first smartphone equipped with Google Tango technology. You'll remember that we talked about Google Tango in episode 82. BeyondSocialMediaShow.com/82. That's the technology. Google Tango is the technology that maps the world. It was initially developed for Google's self-driving cars, little thing that sat on top of Google's self-driving cars and mapped the environment as the car was driving using cameras and using radar technology. They've shrunk that down to the size of the phone. I figured they would. So this will be incorporated into Lenovo's new Fab 2 Pro phone. Dan Seifert from The Verge reports on the phone specs. It will have a 6.4-inch quad HD display. The main camera is a 16-megapixel camera, to which is added a wide-angle camera and a depth-sensing radar. And so that array of cameras is what gives it the mapping ability. Lenovo's demonstrating the technology with a variety of apps, including a virtual reality-style shooting game, an educational app that they partnered with the American Museum of Natural History that lets you put a dinosaur on your kitchen table through augmented reality and move it around, and then you can tap on pieces of the parts of the dinosaur and learn more about that particular dinosaur. Pretty cool. There's a Domino's app that lets you set up a Rube Goldberg-like virtual contraption in your home. Prior Tango demos have shown how it can be used to navigate indoor spaces or provide contextual information based on the object it's looking at. Lenovo says there will be about 25 apps at launch in a special app store, and expects 100 apps available by the end of the year, one of which will be a device used by Lowe's home improvement stores to demonstrate furniture, flooring, and other things you want to see in your own home. The phone will be available in September with a retail price of $499. You think about the other applications you could use for this: museum walkthroughs, conference walkthroughs for B2B kind of applications, smart home apps. This is a natural for smart home apps, especially when you consider Google's coming out with Google Home. So link it to Google Home, and you've got Google's entree into the smart home world. And, you know, Google's done practically finished the job of mapping the outside world. So now they're starting to map the inside world.
Yeah, you got to start thinking about what Google knows about you and how much that matters to you inside your home and outside your home. And
It's
it's
the
so
last mile
creepy.
of what Google knows about you.
Well, of course, but I mean, it's so creepy that you can actually look inside people's houses with Google, now, and it's only going to get more intense as this goes on. But that's pretty damn amazing. But I haven't heard you say the phone is waterproof. Isn't it Samsung that now has a waterproof phone? I mean,
Somebody
that's
does. I know some. I got a trial of a tablet that was supposed to be waterproof, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna take a trial and dunk it underwater."
so you didn't get it wet.
I didn't. I didn't want to take that risk. I know you say it is, but I'm not gonna try.
That's really funny. So, there's a lot of talk about the lousy level of the stock of Twitter, and then Twitter's, losing users, and Twitter, as was demonstrated today, is still breaking news, and Twitter is still beating Snapchat despite trailing in daily users, and it has two significant advantages. First of all, users engage with the content, which is critical for publishers, and approximately 59% of Twitter users go to Twitter for news. And research from Pew proves that. And users engage with brands' content through Twitter. Coca-Cola, for example, has 3 million followers. And Snapchat users, on the other hand, they use the service for private communication with their friends and family. And 71% of the users only use the app to send a photo or video chats to their peers. And that's according to Defy Media. And the bottom line is that media that disappears is not going to have as much engagement as media that sticks around. But I think Twitter really was a champion today, and always is when there's live breaking news, and this is where you go.
Yeah. And Snapchat. I mean, I've been skeptical of Snapchat from the start for two reasons: ephemerality. So, content that does one purpose for one period of time doesn't do a lot for me. It's not going to help me in what I need to do. And discoverability. So finding people to find or finding accounts to find in Snapchat is hard. And yeah, so there's that. But Snapchat like, Facebook is testing a new Snapchat like feature. So there's a there's a segue. This is from the Next Web, Napier Lopez's story. Facebook is testing a new option that creates status posts that you can hide from your timeline from a new post box. So it's not really ephemeral content. It's just content that's not tied all the time to your Facebook page. So now you can create posts that only show up in news feeds and search and aren't attached to your individual Facebook page. You could do this for an individual post before, but this is they're testing putting it front and center. So probably as a way of encouraging people to post more, because people are hesitant to post some like political posts. You might not want to post those directly for all of your followers to see, or people see on your Facebook page. If you're looking for a job, you don't want people to see your political proclivities or whatever. But if you can post it and just have it show up in the news feed and search, you can get your opinion out without having that risk attached to it. Of course, it would still be findable in search. It may or may not turn into a permanent feature. They are testing it out, but I find that very interesting.
Well, there's nothing that Facebook isn't trying that exists somewhere else. They're launching videos in comments, which I think is very interesting. It's from a story on Facebook from Bob Baldwin, who was the lead developer in the project. And videos and comments are now available worldwide, but that's not exactly true. They're rolling out. Not everybody has them yet, and you can upload them as replies to posts by people and pages. and within groups and events, and it's supported on desktop, iOS, and Android. And there's a camera, and you click on the camera icon next to the comment field, and it allows you to put a video comment. That's a cool thing.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Obviously, that is more of a push to get you to use more video on Facebook, and that's where they're pushing everything towards video. But yeah, that's especially if you're on a mobile device, it's a lot easier to apply with a video than it is to type something out. So.
Well, but Facebook wants to be all things to all people, and it just has always seemed to me that there will be a limit to this. There will be a point at which people go, enough of this already. I mean,
they
Facebook
do
has a lot going on.
Every time they roll out a new feature, people say enough of this, but then they don't abandon Facebook.
But less and less people are actually posting on it, and there's statistical proof of that at this point as well. So, plus they're making it harder and harder for brands to have anything seen that isn't paid for. So it's a pay-per-play platform. Yep. And it's busy, and it's got a lot going on. I go there to see what my friends are doing, and then I go somewhere else for business and for news, because it doesn't work for me for my day-to-day work. I go there to take a break. I go there to hang out. I go there to see, what videos you're posting, what dog and cat videos are out there. But, that's about it. And yes, it has its uses, but and it just really just depends how you use it. But I think there's going to be a breaking point.
I don't know. For all the social media channels that have come out, or all the hot new things that have come out that have lasted a while, Facebook has been the one that has stayed around. I mean, remember MySpace?
MySpace and I mean, on and on. There were so many different ones. And the ones that there's all this big hoopla about when they come out, and then poof.
No. I think Facebook is lasting because they are trying new things all the time. They are changing it up all the time. They're not resting on the laurels. Plus, critical mass of people. They've got 1.6 billion people who use Facebook worldwide, and all the data for advertisers. That's
the mind blower. I mean, I went to a Facebook business conference last week at Columbia, and was talked at for 45 minutes by someone who was a pretty lousy presenter, I must say. But the conference had good food. I will say that about it. And they showed you the data in minutia that you get in data form when you advertise. Whether you spend $5 or whether you spend $5 million, you're still going to get this outrageous amount of data that will tell you much more than anybody else is going to tell you, and probably much more than you need to know. But there was what was interesting about the conference was the 4 small businesses who talked about their experiences, and they didn't really talk about their advertising as much as what sort of content people engaged with, and that was the interesting part of the conference. But in any case, there's more to come every day from both Google and Twitter, and I think that's what's exciting about both of them. So something that I came across this week that I liked a whole lot was in a Time magazine story by Katie Riley, and it's ads that look like they're campaign ads, but they're actually brand ads. And so brands, this election is so insane. Like, I don't think this would have happened in any other election cycle, but brands have jumped into political satire in a way that really never would have worked before. So there were ads, for example, that said, if we build a wall on the border, can I read this? Who will eat our delicious fish tacos? And that was from Eel the Burke, which it was a taco company. And I mean, the stuff that they're doing is just so much fun. I support the gay community, says Berkowitz, who's the president of the company. That's why we serve rainbow trout. And, this is so irreverent that in any other election cycle, people would be protesting, but it's funny because the election cycle isn't.
Yeah. I think you got to be careful with that kind of stuff, though. You got to know who your audience is too, and know whether it's going to work or not. But good.
This is
That's
working.
that's fun.
This is
Are we
working.
on to good shiny new stuff?
No, I have one more. I have a doodle, so I'm interested in things that doodles do. And a golden doodle in England ran a half marathon and raised money for a cancer charity. His name was Dozer, and he escaped from his owner's yard, and all of a sudden, because there were 2,000 people running by, and he finished the race actually in 2 hours and 14 minutes, even though he started at mile 5. And he actually ended up raising money for a cancer charity, and now he has his own Facebook page with 17,500 fans, and he's raising money for the University of Maryland's Greenbaum Cancer Center, and his video has been viewed 250,000 times. So go Doodles. And one more. Twitter did an interesting thing. They took 12,000 Twitter users and they began a new initiative. They call these people Twitter insiders, and they asked them to join this program, and it's aimed at giving advertisers insights from these users. And so the program's aim is to create a one-stop shop for advertisers to be able to recruit and collect live research. And the insiders are anonymous. They have to be at least 16 years old. Right now they have to live in the US or United Kingdom. And they're asked to share things about themselves like their income, their education, their gender, what their interests are. And then advertisers are involved in long-term and short-term projects where the insiders are participating in surveys, and they can turn them around in just a couple of days. So Twitter is getting very smart about advertising, and long-term projects can take 4 to 6 weeks to complete, and they're research intensive, and they might show an advertiser or a movie how to launch their ad campaign. And they're not paying these people for their participation, but they get gift cards, and they get maybe gift cards for smartphones. And they're also asked to take pictures and test video and analyze facial expressions from images. And then they get access to a devoted message board, and they can talk to other users in the same way as they do on Twitter. So I think that's a fascinating turn of events for Twitter, and I think it bodes well for the future.
Yeah, well, I thought a lot of the value that Twitter has is their set of data, just like Facebook. It looks like they're trying to maximize that with this program, so good for them. Let's go on to the new stuff. I'm going to share one and leave the other one for next week since we're running over. Post with Google. This is like Facebook and LinkedIn have rolled out blogging platforms. Google is now offering a direct publishing platform. Verified individuals and organizations can now communicate with text, images, and video directly on Google. Creating a content is fast and simple, their post says. Once published, the post will appear instantly in search results related to the publisher. Each post can also be shared on social networks. It's an experimental feature right now. It's invite only, and invite only to only if you are a public figure or organization who would like to publish on Google. You can
apply. What the hell?
You can join the wait list. Yeah, so I like define public figure.
Yeah, right. I'm a public figure in my circle. That's that's kind of cool. The thing that I came across that I thought was just such a hoot is called OMO Optical Music Object, and it's a portable speaker system by Human Technology Products. It's got a lightweight frame and light-colored disco balls on the interior, and it can float in a pool while playing your music via Bluetooth through your smartphone, your tablet, or your laptop, and you can hang it on the wall, and it can make like a disco ball of your party and a light show that pulses to the beat, and you can float alongside it, and you get HD quality sound, and it will take phone calls, hold conference calls, and it will even charge your phone.
How much is it?
I don't know. They didn't
Data,
say that. Yeah,
data, Data overages do not apply.
Right. No, they do. And one more thing. This is totally brilliant. This is a bracelet that could save your life. It's a bracelet that if you're underwater and you pull it, it opens up into a flotation device. It could save you or your child from drowning. It's $99, and what a fantastic thing.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, daily numbers. Let's wrap this up. People are embarrassed to use voice activation on their phone. I know I am. This is from a Next Web article by Brian Clark. According to a recent study by Creative Strategies, some 89% of iPhone users have used Siri. Of course, that's not surprising, but just 3% of them are using the feature in public or in front of others. The number doubles for those using other digital assistants like Google Now or Cortana. 20% of those polled reported they don't use the feature in public because it's uncomfortable talking to their phone with others around. Android users use voice assistants in public more than any other group, and 4 times as much as Siri users. Let's say the iPhone users actually do use Siri, but mostly in the car, where 62% of their usage rate is nearly double that of Android. This kind of stuff intuitively makes sense. I mean, I go walking through the skyways in Minneapolis with my phone, and I want to do a search on something. It's going to be more easy for me to talk in my phone, but I want to do it because there's people all over. I'll look like a dork. So
oh, excuse me, but people wearing Bluetooth devices, including me, are walking along talking to themselves. People always talk to me while I'm talking on the Bluetooth. And what the hell's the difference? I talk when I want to talk. I don't mind talking.
I look at people doing that and they're like, are you talking to me?
Oh, don't worry about it.
No. There you go. Well, there's the numbers. There's the numbers to back up my own feelings about it.
Well, I don't have those feelings.
You're a New Yorker.
Yeah, right. Everybody in New York is walking along talking to themselves, whether or not they're crazy. You can't really tell who is and who isn't. So that brings us to the end of episode 146 of the Beyond Social Media Show. All the links of the stories we talked about will be at our blog, beyondsocialmediashow.com/146. And we hope you'll give us a review there at beyondsocialmediashow.com/love. David Erickson is on Twitter as @DErickson. He blogs at eStrategyblog.com and creativepr.com/blog, both of which are fantastic and you should read them. I'm BL Ochman. I'm at What's Next on Twitter. I blog at whatsnextblog.com. I run maximum-plus.com for all things live streaming and video. And I also write Paw Fun blog, and the show is beyondsocialmediashow.com. On Twitter, we're at BS Media Show. And we will be back next week, same time, same station. And we thank you for watching tonight.
Thanks for watching.